Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking a bit of a trip back to 1994 to the age of, well, early digital signal processing. We're going to explore a really specific piece of gear history, the BSS HR2 Harmonist. Now, this isn't just some forgotten pedal. This is a piece of gear whose whole value today is tied to its imperfections.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to sort of figure out that contradiction. Why is this technically, primitive digital pedal from the mid-90s now a highly prized cult classic? We're going to unpack its history, that unique sound, and see why those digital flaws became, well, sonic features.
To really get the HR2, you have to put yourself in 1994. If you were a guitarist back then and you wanted intelligent harmonization...
Then let's be clear what that means.
Right. We mean real-time key-based pitch shifting, where the pedal actually follows what you're playing and makes sure the harmony note is musically correct. If you wanted that, you had to buy a rack unit.
These huge, expensive boxes.
Massive. Expensive. We're talking Eventide, Digitech, Yamaha, and they were, strictly for professional touring rigs. The HR2 just completely changed that landscape.
How so?
It was the first intelligent pitch-shifting pedal that came in a compact, affordable stomp box. It took a technology that lived in racks and put it right at your feet. That miniaturization alone was revolutionary.
Okay, so that's the big technical milestone. But knowing how massive and complex those rack units were, the real question is, how did BOSS actually pull that off? How did they cram all that into a little yellow box?
Right, that's the million-dollar question. And the answer was really embracing early dedicated digital signal processing. Specifically, they used an early 24-bit Roland DSP engine.
And that chip handled everything.
It handled the real-time pitch detection, yeah. And then that processing was paired with the key and scale selection, which is what makes it intelligent.
Right.
The player to dial in the key, and, once it was set, the HR2 could generate the correct diatonic harmony notes.
Okay, hold on. Let's quickly clarify that term, diatonic keys. For anyone maybe not knee-deep in music theory, what are we talking about exactly?
It just means notes that fit perfectly within whatever scale you've selected. So instead of just shifting your signal up, say, a fixed interval like always 5 semitones, which can sound really dissonant.
Right, it can clash.
It clashes. The HR2 knew, based on the key you told it, which notes belonged and which didn't. It made sure the harmony was always musical.
Got it. And the biggest feature, the one that gave it this huge utility, was that it could generate 2 harmony voices at the same time.
Dual pitch voices, yeah. Voice 1 and voice 2, which is just almost unthinkable for a compact pedal in that era.
He could stack harmonies.
You could stack them. And on top of that, it had stereo outputs. So you could spread those 2 voices wide and just fill the room. And for the tone purists, it still used BOSS's standard buffer bypass.
Which just means your signal stays strong even when the pedal is off.
Exactly. Even when it's off, it maintains signal strength through all your cables.
Okay, let's pivot to the controls, because they really show how much intention was required from the player. Unlike modern harmonizers that try to guess the key, the HR2 made you use your theory knowledge.
It absolutely did. You had that crucial key selector. If you said it wrong, the harmony would just sound awful immediately.
So it would clash.
But once it was locked in, the mode knob gave you incredible flexibility. You could pick your interval pairs, classic thirds, fifths, sixths, octaves, or you could stack them like a major third or perfect fifth on top of your dry note. It demanded clean playing and knowing what key you were in.
And for the experimental players, that expression input must have been a complete game changer.
Oh, it was. It lets you have real-time control over the titch. You could do these wild sweeps or even morph between voices, which was, again, just revolutionary for a stomp box. It wasn't just for harmonies. It was about performance.
So this 24-bit Roland chip, it wasn't trying to be crystal clear like modern gear, was it? We have to talk about the sound, because the reason this thing is a collector's item is for the exact stuff modern pedals try to eliminate.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
The HR2 is famous for the sound of its time. It has this slightly grainy 90s digital texture. It is not studio clean. It generates these subtle musical artifacts.
Flaws, basically.
You could call them flaws, but instead of muddying the sound, they add this certain warmth, a character that, later cleaner designs just couldn't replicate.
And people often describe that warmth as having a kind of vocal-like quality to it. I imagine the subtle latency, that slight delay from the early DSP, that has to contribute to the feel.
It does. That little bit of latency gives the sound a sort of dreamlike 90s character, especially when used in the stereo outputs. It sounds a little imperfect, soft around the edges. And crucially, the delay knob enhances that. It adds a slight delay just to the harmonized voices.
Ah, so that separation is key. It gives you the feel of two separate guitarists, not just one thick, kind of muddy sound.
Correct. Gives the harmonies air and space. It
Yeah.
stops the whole thing from feeling too synthetic or phasey.
Oh, wait, let me just push back on this a little bit. We're
Yeah.
celebrating tracking artifacts and latency. Isn't the whole point of digital audio to get rid of those things? Wasn't it frustrating for players to deal with that?
It certainly required a specific touch. The pedal absolutely demands a clean input, and it struggles if you try to play, fast, complex chords. The tracking artifacts are there, especially if you get sloppy.
So it forces you to be deliberate.
Exactly. That constraint became part of its charm. It kind of weeded out the casual user, and it really rewarded the intentional player.
So what did those intentional players do with it? I mean, how did musicians in the mid-90s really use the HR2 to change their sound, given the dual voices and the tracking?
Well, the main use was naturally lead harmonization. It let a single guitarist get those classic sweeping diatonic leads that guys like Joe Satriani or Steve Vai had popularized.
It made that sound accessible.
It made it accessible to every working musician, but it was also fantastic for twin guitar effects. You could emulate that Iron Maiden dual lead harmony style, and the stereo outs made it sound so convincing on stage, it solved a huge problem for smaller bands.
And it wasn't just for rock leads, right? I know it became a huge tool in ambient music.
Oh, absolutely. Using the wide stereo outs, longer delay settings, it was perfect for creating these rich ambient harmony pads. And because of the dual voices, you could create three-part harmony.
Your dry signal plus the two generated notes.
Right. You could get this massive orchestrated sound from just one guitar. A lot of studios used it purely as a thickener in recordings. You just mix it in subtly and spread it wide in the stereo field.
And we can't forget that expression pedal input again. That must have taken all of this to another level.
It did. Players could use that for these dramatic effects, everything from a subtle kind of seasick vibrato all the way to experimental glitch tones and these massive screaming pitch sweeps, especially with high intervals. It just pushed the boundaries of what a single guitar could do live.
So this pedal was only made for 3 years, 1994 to 97. A very short run. And given how powerful and pristine modern harmonizers are today, like, say, an Eventide H9 or even the newer Boss SPS series, why is the HR2 still so prized? Why hasn't technology just replaced the nostalgia?
Well, if you look at the bigger picture, the HR2's main legacy is that it literally created the category of the compact, intelligent harmonizer. It paved the way for every single modern pitch shifter that came after
Use
it.
that necessary first step.
It was, but the reason it's so collectible, that is tied purely to its unique sound. Collectors prized the HR2 because those early DSP algorithms gave it a tone, that grainy, warm vocal quality that was never reproduced in later designs.
So when BSS made the PS5 and PS6,
They were aiming for cleaner, more precise digital conversion. And they achieved it. They got technical superiority, but they lost that specific 90s texture. They lost the charm that makes the HR2 sound so special.
so it's the ultimate contradiction then. A technical pioneer whose lasting value is tied not to its innovation, but to its imperfections. The flaws actually became the features that modern gear can't replicate.
That's it, exactly. The HR2 really demonstrates that sometimes, the early imperfect technology, the stuff built out of necessity on a brand new architecture, it creates a unique musical character that the later, cleaner, technically superior designs can never quite get back.
And that raises a really interesting question for you, the listener. Because the HR2 lacks automatic key detection, it forces a player to manually set the key, to be deliberate about music theory. So does that technical constraint actually lead to better, more intentional musical performances than the automated, perfect systems we have today? Something to think about next time you fire up your pedal board.